Or then we'll cross now to our Brussels correspondent, Dave Keating. Hi, Dave. So to start with the war in Ukraine, is this another kind of mostly symbolic show of support, or do you think it'll make a real difference on the ground?
The show of support was mostly symbolic. There wasn't actually much of a discussion about defense capabilities yesterday because the leaders had spent so much time talking about defense at NATO. What they did do was ask the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to research how military spending could be best done to be most efficient and come back to them at the next summit in October. That report from the Commission is basically going to try to avoid duplication as all of this new military spending is happening in order to meet that new 5% target. They want to make sure that countries aren't unnecessarily duplicating the same amount of spending. But other than that, there wasn't much good news for Ukraine yesterday, and there was a whole lot of bad news. First of all, Hungary vetoed the language that would have endorsed Ukraine's membership of the European Union. So they had to adopt that with just 26 of the 27 countries. That's mostly a statement of intent. However, they need Hungary in order to move forward with Ukraine's EU accession. And actually, Viktor Orban, the prime minister, held a referendum that's been greatly criticized as being kind of a sham yesterday, where they asked Hungarians whether they want Ukraine to join the European Union. And supposedly the result came back at 95% of Hungarians saying no. And so Viktor Orban is basically digging in his heels on that. Then separately, we had the prime minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, veto an attempt to move forward on an 18th package of sanctions against Russia. There is some hope that they can maybe convince him to end that veto. His objection is that this latest sanctions package and something related to it would end all imports of Russian oil and gas, and he is worried that Slovakia would face an energy crisis in the winter as a result of that. He's also worried that actually that would be subject to legal challenge by Russia. So, overall, not much progress, statements of symbolic support, but more backwards movement for Ukraine yesterday than forwards movement.
Okay, Dave, so what about the issue of Donald Trump's tariffs? I mean, presumably the fears about the effects that they would have across the European Union are the source of consensus amongst all of the members. So was there any progress made then on addressing that?
Nothing concrete, but we did see a big shift in mood music yesterday. So coming into the summit, we had the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz basically saying the Commission should just do a quick and dirty deal with the U.S. to avoid this 50% tariff threat. French President Emmanuel Macron was saying, no, we need to be strong. Don't just give in to what the United States wants. We need to actually respond with threats that we could start taxing services imports that the U.S. hugely relies on for services to Europeans. So yesterday, it looked like President Macron was softening his stance. He had been saying that the EU should only offer a deal if the U.S. is willing to go down to 0% tariffs. Yesterday, he signaled that actually 10%, the baseline rate that Trump is applying on everyone, would be acceptable. That's what the UK accepted in order to get its little mini deal. And also, he seemed to signal that he would be willing for the Commission to make some concessions. Now, last night, we got news that the U.S. had responded to the Commission's latest offer to try to avoid that deadline. The deadline is supposedly on the 9th of July, but when you're talking to people here, I think most people aren't feeling that worried about it because they're assuming that Trump is going to roll over again as he did in the past. We'll see. We'll see what kind of progress they make next week. As it gets closer to that deadline day of July 9th, people may start to get a little more nervous.
Dave Keating in Brussels, thank you very much.